So welcome, Holly. So you're married. How many kids do you have?
4.
You have 4. Okay, and of course you're trying to raise them as good Catholic kids to follow Jesus. What I'd like to ask you about today is just any stories you might have about how your kids have tried to witness to your faith. I know you're a missionary family, and you're trying to encourage your kids to witness to their faith. Do you have any stories of your kids doing that?
Yeah, so it's pretty ordinary to hear at the end of the day from my kids what happened at recess or what happened at the playground or what was getting discussed. And what I'm discovering more and more is they're navigating conversations about what people are watching on YouTube, which has a huge spectrum of things that are shared about. So maybe when I was little, it was, the common sitcom or the TV show that we would share. Now it's what people are seeing on YouTube. So one of my children, he's 10 years old, was sort of feeling insecure because the boys at the playground were talking about corn. He thought it was a vegetable. And he says, oh, like the vegetable, and they start teasing him because it's of course like a heavy rock band and he's never heard of it. And he starts to walk away from the circle. And then one of the other little boys says, no, Oliver, come back. I want to tell you more about what I saw. And he returned. And this little boy, I'll call him Jack, said, Oliver, I saw this plus sign on this commercial, a plus sign with a man on a plus sign. And of course, Oliver, this is later relayed to me, but says, oh, like that's Jesus. Like Jesus was on the cross. And he said, well, who's Jesus? So unbeknownst to me, while I was doing dishes, my 10-year-old ran into the house and got like a comic book, like an action Bible, which he knew had the images of Jesus's condemnation and his suffering and passion and his death and his resurrection and of course miracles. And he's apparently grabbed this and ran outside and was flipping kind of frantically through the pages to show this little boy who was from just who international and raised with no faith in a really kind of strict country, and shared with him about who Jesus was. So he showed like Jesus suffered and he was hung beside 2 other people, and this was the good thief and the bad thief, and he's just relaying to him the gospel. And the little boy said to my son, like, and you believe this? You believe that he died and rose again? And my son said, yes. And he said, well, can I believe too? And my son said, yeah, yes, you can. And he's like, well, I'm going to ask my mom and dad. So.
Was there any follow-up to that?
Yeah, since then, this little boy has like quite an interest in kind of finding my son at the park. And so my son will collect like pamphlets at church about the rosary or about 33-day consecrations, and anything he can find he kind of takes to, and he always brings them to the park. And when they built snow forts in the winter, they would go into the snow forts and just talk about the faith, and they've had conversations on suffering. And of course, I don't know any of this until later. When I'm putting him to bed at night and I'm like, how was your day? He's like, so today, and he kind of relays these things to me. So I'm not really coaching him proactively. It's always like later that I hear the stories of what he's done.
So, I mean, this is incredible that your son has done this. What have you done to prepare him for this? Like, what have you done? Like, do you have a little evangelization training program at the Leonard household?
No, I mean, at nighttime we thank God for what he's done, and we lift up kind of intercessions for people that we're concerned about, and we talk a lot about the kids are easy, like they vent a lot of, this person hurt me today, this person did this to me today, and in our house we always say like hurt people, and they need Jesus. And so we develop a space where because someone hurts us, it's probably because they need Jesus and they need more of him in their life, and we don't need to be mad at them, we need to bring them to freedom in Jesus. So that's a motto that they have.
Okay, so, because like what I'm hearing is a kid that your son's playing with, and your son is 9, brings up the topic of Jesus, and then responds by walking through the gospel message.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that there was no sort of training?
I've never trained him,
okay.
No.
Sweetie, when this situation comes up, be ready to present the Carigma. Here's the 4-point gospel.
No, I actually had other tools I would have preferred to use that would have been better if I had known,
No, that's great. I know it can be challenging to have your kids in school, in public schools, even Catholic schools, but even in good Catholic schools, other things can come up that may be different from what the kids are hearing at home. Have you had situations where the kids they felt uncomfortable, or how did they react to situations where they kind of knew, okay, this isn't exactly what mommy and daddy are teaching me at home?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a couple of those. One of my older son is really captivated by Eucharistic miracles and things that, yeah, just miracles. And we have like a saying in our family where we'll say, "Oh, that was a family miracle," meaning like an answered
yeah.
prayer. So one day the teacher was presenting on the faith, and she left the room, and of course conversations ensued. And my one son was kind of sharing about some of these, and in this Catholic school, some of the other children said, "There's no way, like, you believe in God, like, really?" And he said, "Yeah, like, this happened, this family miracle." He's describing times where we've cried out and God's provided, or where I was with my grandfather once and the Blessed Virgin was appearing to my grandfather, and my children weren't there but believed this and talk about this at school, and the children were teasing him, and like, you know, and he's trying to defend and he's trying to make sense of all this. And even the teacher said, you know, to my son, let everyone believe what they need to believe, like, don't be too intense. And so he came home like really discouraged, but I told him like there's so much victory in what he did, because now he's left those children wondering, like, is God real, and does he still move, and does he perform miracles? So none of them have since pursued him about that, but he's now known as that. He's actually lost like a lot of friends in the Catholic school because of this, but our job at home is not to celebrate his social status, but how he's stood up.
So it's not like, to what extent have you encouraged your children to, okay, sweetie, you got to be ready to witness to your faith? How much explicit encouragement have you given your children?
I haven't done any of that yet, and actually, like, I wish, like, we more make a really big deal when God moves, and we claim it as a family, and we celebrate it, and we cast like a vision that he sees us and knows us. And I'm suspecting in this economy what happens is they really just do authentically believe, and so witnessing flows from that. That time together where we claim and celebrate what God has done through history, but also in our lives, and it becomes a part of how they're functioning. But I've never coached them like, you know, if this challenge happens, here's how you should respond, or this. I share things I've done and sufferings I've lived and rejections, so there's a bit of an understanding that we're going to be put down. But
as a mom, like, I'm thinking, you know, as a dad, are you also sort of like, are you feeling like worried for your kids? Like, if they stand up with their faith, are you worried about them being sort of socially outcast? Like, how, as a mom and as a Christian, how are you kind of navigating? It's like, oh, you know, sweetie, I'm so proud of you, but then you're also feeling badly because maybe you lose friends over it. So how do you process that? How do you deal with that?
I mean, on a human level, yeah, I've noticed the birthday invitations kind of go down. Like, we're not getting as many of those. So, and it could be a lot of reasons for that, but I have a human worry and a human insecurity that, are they going to ever have friends? But the friends they are having, and the one or two that are sticking around, are staying around and authentically curious and have good character and are attracted to the character of my children and the faith that builds that up. So I would rather them have a few who are genuinely interested and love them than to have a wider kind of generic social circle.
Yeah, so I feel challenged that a 9-year-old would respond to someone raising the gospel message, and then to actually go get my Bible and sort of walk them through. I mean, I think he's a wonderful example.